Well, thanks for taking the time to meet with me this morning to talk about your article.
Uh, yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Well, the first thing when I jumped into your article and was preparing for this interview was like just a super normal question. So, what is your favorite sport to watch?
That's a great question, Cassie. I love football. I'm not like an athlete, so like me playing is not gonna happen. But yeah, I love to watch football.
I'm with you on that. And the me playing, not going to happen, but so interesting. And, actually, ironically, that's what my dad watched when we were growing up. And so, you talking about the play by play, you know,
Mhm.
like you can see so much more now in this season of football than when I was a little kid. And so that just felt, as I was reading your article, I was like, oh, yeah, that totally makes sense when you can zoom in and they're calling all the things and they've got that little line in the circle and they're following the ball around. So
Yeah,
that tickled me.
yeah, that's so true. That's so true. You can. And what I kind of the heartbeat or what spurred this article is I'm an Indianapolis Colts fan because that's where I grew up,
Okay.
but I don't live anywhere near there, so we can't get them on TV. So I have to listen to them on the radio. And I don't know if you've ever done that, Cassie, but
Oh,
when you listen to the game on the radio, it's such a different experience because they're literally naming every single thing that's happening because you can't see it. So they're telling you where everybody's at and why they're moving over here and what they're doing. And I've just realized, like, wow, if we communicated in that way, how much different of an experience would it be?
yeah, that totally makes sense because you are relying solely on the ears in that case to take in all the information. How
Yeah.
interesting. Well, tell us what in communication the play by play is. Flesh that out a little bit for us.
Yeah, it's a way to really slow down communication and focus on being in the moment and actually naming what's happening inside of you in the moment. Because Cassie, really, that's all we can control, right? I could never control what you're feeling or what you're thinking, but I could let you know what I'm feeling and what I'm thinking. So focusing in on that helps you to stay like present in the moment and more grounded and really kind of prevents you from reaching for all of the past things and pulling them in because that
Mm,
really pulls you away from the present need in the moment.
mm. Okay, this is bringing up a few questions for me. The first
Okay.
one is, how do we get better at recognizing our own feelings?
Yeah, that's such a good question. I think by slowing down and just by really connecting, um, like noticing what's happening in your body, because sometimes
Mm,
that's really a way to keep you present in the moment and grounded and recognize like okay, it's not about what happened here or what might happen there. It's about what's going on right now in the moment. So, really, just doing work around just slowing down in the moment and not having to respond automatically, just giving yourself that room to, like,
mm,
okay, what am I noticing right now? And the beautiful thing about the play by play and what I tell couples all the time is just say that, right? Just say in that moment,
mm,
like, I need a second to recognize what's going on in me. And that's like the first step of the play by play is you're naming exactly what's happening in you in the moment. And that's like tapping the brake pedal,
mm.
press and pause, and giving yourself room to figure out what's going on before you react to it.
Yeah, I I'm wondering when you talk about naming the things like what's going on in your body, we give some examples of like what that might feel like or what you might be noticing.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah. So just like for instance, I'll just be real, right? Before we started the interview today, I was telling you like, oh, these things
Yes.
make me nervous. So slowing down in that moment and just recognizing like, okay, this is what's happening in me, right? I'm a little jittery, I'm a little nervous, right? And then me even sharing that with you you were able to kind of meet me there and say like, ah, okay, but this is something you do every day. Like, all right, that's helpful, right? It's like grounding. And so you even helped me with the play-by-play today because I was just naming to you what was going on, right, Cassie, in the moment. So just being able to slow down and recognize that and name it actually like takes some of its power away. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yes, yes. It brings it into the light and we can share it and hold it
Right.
together.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
How cool to think that this strategy can apply to all our relationships and be
Really
beneficial
can.
in
Yeah.
all our relationships.
Yeah, it really can.
That's exciting.
Mhm.
Well, let me ask, you talk about remaining in the present and you mentioned like if we stay connected to our body and we're naming these things out loud, our feelings, then we're less likely to drift into the past and bring up old hurts. So, my question is, why do we try to drift into the past?
Yeah. Yeah. So I'll just be real and transparent. And the way that I think through that, Cassie, is like identifying why I do it myself. So maybe somebody can connect with that. But I know that like we all have a cycle, right? We all have a conflict cycle. You and Josh have a conflict cycle. My wife and I have a conflict cycle. So recognizing in me that a lot of times when I'm not comfortable or I'm not understanding fully what I'm feeling in the moment, I start to reach for things to justify or to rationalize why I'm feeling what I'm
Mm,
feeling. Right. So there's something that's coming up and I'm like, oh, I don't like that. So then in my mind, I automatically go to like justifying myself. Well, remember when this happened, or I'm reaching over here. Well, I have a right to be angry because you did this then. Right. And you start grabbing all of those things as a way to kind of rationalize what you're feeling in the moment rather than just saying, I'm really frustrated and feeling alone right now,
mm.
right? Like, why not just stay here and talk about what's happening right now and not have to rationalize or justify it by identifying all of these other times where you felt that way, right? Because that
Yeah.
triggers defenses, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Which we want to keep out because we're trying to meet
yeah,
each other and solve the actual issue and be together rather than fighting.
yeah. It's so true. And what I tell all my couples is that's the quickest way on the crazy train, and then the crazy train leaves the station, right? So it's like the play by
Yes.
play is slowing it down and not giving that train the opportunity to leave the station. So
When you say slowing it down, I feel my body like breathing deeply and relaxing and being like, oh, yeah, good
yeah.
idea. Well, I'm curious how, you talked about staying in the present and naming our emotions and even sharing what we might need. How does that differ than telling the other person what they should do?
Yeah, I think I think I hit on that a little bit earlier in just that like I can't control what they do. Like I'll never be able to control whether my spouse understands what I'm saying or connects with me and what I'm saying, or if they change what they're doing because like I can never control that. But what I can control is my willingness to be vulnerable and honest. And
Mm,
in doing that and naming what I need, it's giving them the opportunity to meet that need if they're able, or to be honest about it if they're not, right? Because sometimes maybe they can't meet that need. So it creates a space
yeah.
for that conversation. But it also, again, prevents some of that triggering of defenses, right? Like I could sit here and say, Cassie, you need to do this, and this different, right? And then you're going to be like, well, let me tell you what you need to do different, right? And
Yeah.
then and then the whole cycle becomes who's right and who's wrong and who's going to change and who's going to win this thing rather than just
Back to the crazy
each
train.
other's heart, right? Back to the crazy train. Yeah, so naming the need versus saying what I need you to do is this, right?
Mm,
But saying what I need is this, regardless of whether or not you do it or can do it. This is what I need. It's just a level of honesty and
mm.
transparency, right? That needs to be the
Yeah, that
foundation.
totally makes sense. When you said, Cassie, you need to do this, this, and this, and this, even though I knew it was not real and we are just having a pretend I
Yeah,
felt my body
right.
immediately tense up a little bit, like,
Yeah.
no.
I'll tell you what
And
you
so
need to.
how much how much more in our relationships where it is real and our emotions are high in that space,
Right.
contrasting that with earlier when you were saying, you were giving an example of what you might share, and I just feel really alone right now, even though it wasn't a real conversation
Yeah.
between us. I felt myself immediately lean into you and lean towards you and want to be with you and show up for you, and it just changed the dynamics. It's so powerful.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it really is. And what I always tell couples too is vulnerability yields vulnerability. And if you want to see the
Mm.
needle move in your relationship, like vulnerability is the pathway to do that. That's what it needs to be
That
done.
takes some bravery.
It really does. It really does. And I love that you said that, Cassie, because that's like kind of dissecting and applying the play by play. Because what I always tell couples when they say, "Oh, it's too scary to do that," like that's the play by play. Say, "I want to share something with you, but I'm scared," right? Like that's
Yes.
step, and just put a period there, right?
Yeah.
And then
Just be
that's
one
moving the
itty
needle,
bitty.
right?
That's
Right.
so exciting. Like that feels tangible. Like what is the littlest, smallest
Yeah.
thing that I can do to try to step into this, to practice this, to be brave and take that
Yeah.
next.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. This is powerful.
Oh,
I
thank you.
appreciate you sharing this.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
appreciate the time today for sure. And my heart is just
Yeah.
that it'll help couples just like you just said, one small tangible thing. Right? Because sometimes when couples come in, they're like, we need to just totally overhaul our communication. I feel myself getting overwhelmed, like, oof, goodness, that's been
This is a
10,
tall order,
15,
friends.
20 years of practice in the communication you're in. So it's gonna take practice to learn a new way to communicate, and just brings it back to the sports thing. Like takes
Mm,
practice, right? And you're not just going to be great at it so overnight. So just so I call all of my sessions with couples practice. Like we practiced today. We trained a little bit today, right? Got a little stronger today. So we'll just keep practicing. Yeah. So I just encourage anybody that's watching, like reach out if you want to practice, if you want a coach to join your team, we've got them. We'd love to be that person for you.
love it. Well, let's wrap it up with that. That feels good. I appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Thank you, Cassie.
Thanks, Greg.